Look what just dropped in from Target, the new Boonta Eve set. I've been so excited about this one. If you know anything about me and my passion for Star Wars, then you know that I'm a big fan of pod racers and just pod racing in general. And as much as I'd love Disney to take a break from Star Wars shows, I do hope that they eventually make a series based on pod racing, just in depth, new racers, and just like making your way to the top. I think that would be so cool to see, and just a new refreshing take on Star Wars. But anyways, we have a lot to talk about. We have some new pods, so let's crack this baby open and see what it has to offer. This beautiful set is a Target exclusive, as you can see right there. Retails for $34.99, and that comes out to about just under $12 per pod. Take a look at that beautiful artwork on the side with all three racers there. Backhand side gives us a nice illustration and blueprint breakdown of what these pods look like and what they can basically do. And it comes with stands, which is a big bonus and very much needed for pod racers. Now, comes with three different characters. We have Sebulba, which is a reprint. We have Gasgano, and then Dud Bolt. Adding these two new characters to our roster leaves us with, 17 more racers to go until we have the complete lineup for pod racers. So that is a big goal for me within this line, is to be able to get all the pod racers, because that'll be done for the first time ever, within Star Wars history. We do not have all the racers whatsoever. And then obviously my second big want is going to be the Ebon Hawk, and I will be saying that until I'm blue in the face, until we get that vehicle. Of course, here's the barcode and the Target DPCI to help you track this down. Now, if you're an international fan, I'm not entirely sure where you can pick this up, so if anybody knows, comment down below and let's help each other out. I do want to give one last look of appreciation to this box art. Micro Galaxy Squadron has the best modern toy box design art, hands down, to any other toys. I love the way it looks, just the little holographic nature, the illustrations. It's just a very attractive packaging. And with that being said, I'm going to crack into it and destroy it. Before we jump into the pods, let's take a quick look at the figures. Pretty traditional paint apps. You see that Dud Bolt has the little goggles right there. Try not to knock him over. And you can see his teeth. So he looks basically like a space warthog. You can see some logoing throughout his arms. And then as far as Gasgano goes, hopefully don't drop him. You can see the gloves, and there's also some more painted details to the back. Now, this is the second time we have received Sebulba, and compared to the very first set, I would say it's basically the exact same figure. Maybe a slightly darker brown color here with the battle damage, but other than that, it's basically the same. But the real standout differences is going to be within the pod itself, and that's the way they kind of marketed this entire set, is that, hey, you're getting Sebulba again, but the pod itself is, battle damaged, or it's weathered. And so right here on the right-hand side, this is the battle damage, and then this is our first set. And you can see right off the bat, big differences, just paint scuffing, chipping throughout. This one is a lot more weathered, where obviously this one looks a lot cleaner. And I have like some sand on this still from when I did my little photo shoot with it. And then more of that battle damage continues to the top of the pod, and it's just pretty straightforward throughout, just paint chipping, dirty within the components and the engines. I mean, even at the back of the engine, you can see all that like carbon buildup, and then to the cockpit itself, you can see how dirty that is, and just more like paint chipping and scuffs. And then let's look, here's like the little vents back here, you can see. So those look basically the same. And then we'll look here at the front of the pod. You can see how dirty that is. Nothing too big of a difference here. I mean, just maybe within the vents, there's a little bit more dirt. I would say that it looks like the binding wire right here looks a lot darker, or looks a little bit darker compared to the Series 1. So that definitely looks a lot more vibrant. So I do like that change. That's pretty cool. And then I'll show you on the underside so you can see how dirty that is as well, that they just, completed it throughout the entire pod. Now, I would say I do prefer this new battle damaged or weathered looking one definitely more than the first one, for sure. I would have liked to have seen this pod itself be like crumbled, like this one engine just like absolutely compacted and destroyed, like when we see him actually crash, and then the other one just like obliterated, just like parts and pieces. I think that would have been a cool variant, to this, and I would have liked to have seen the way this looks within the very first set with Anakin. For me, I would have just preferred a whole new racer, somebody that we don't have yet. Let's just check off all the characters off that roster, and let's get all these racers and be able to build up that entire collection. Let's move into Dud Bolt's pod, so let's just place him on in there first. He has that basic articulation, and he should just be able to pop right on in there like the rest of the figures. And, oh, he seems a little, like, wide for the pod. Huh. Hold on, let me fix this real quick. Let's straighten him out a little bit. Yeah, he seems... Oh. Huh. So it doesn't look like he fits all the way... Oh, there he goes. Okay, there we go. I got him. Take this off. Alright, that just took a little bit. Okay, yeah, so he seemed like he was a little too wide to actually fit inside of there, but... You can see I kind of clicked him right in place. So it took a little bit of pushing, but he fits in there. No problem. Okay. And that's just basically his appearance for like the only 3 seconds we see him within the film. I think he crashes on like lap 3 is what I was reading. But there he is, fitting in there, no problem. You can see how good that little cockpit looks. Loving all that detail. So I'm glad that they are upping the color scheme and also like the weathering throughout these pods. Like the first Boonta Eve set we received had barely any weathering. I mean, it had just like a dash here and there, but you can see they actually added a lot more to this, which at the end of the day, adding weathering isn't a big deal because I could just always apply a black wash later like we've said previously, but seeing it already done on the pods, being updated like this is great. That's a good bonus for me. Now let's put them back together. Like you've seen previously with these pods, they can basically fully disassemble. So I can technically create, these pods like completely crashed out. And it's all basic ball joint mechanisms. So we have a ball right there that connects, and then to the 2 engines itself, we have some more ball joints. And so that gives us the articulation to be able to take off this stand, to be able to, maneuver like, hey, like this pod is actually, going through and turning and doing all this and that. Even here at like the binding cable, that also has a ball joint. And so with all of those joints combined, then that's where you can get all that extra articulation. And it just looks so good. Once you have it displayed on the stand, you can, maneuver it like, hey, he's actually flying through the canyon. And so that is one of my favorite pieces about these, because no other real pod racer, has been able to do this. We had the old Hasbro set, but, it wasn't, this articulated. Here I'll give you a better look at the paint apps and just the overall weathering. I'll also throw some images up of what his pod actually looks like, since, he didn't get a whole lot of screen time. But they did a good job mimicking it and just trying to stay true to the overall colors. I love all the little details right here. That's cool. The weathering, you can totally tell it is updated. And just even this binding is definitely a deeper color. Like, it's less transparent, that is for sure. Looks like it got a little warped within packaging or off the assembly line. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this. I'm just excited. I hope we get some more pods. Here's a better idea of what the underside looks like. No screw holes whatsoever, which is great. And then as far as like the stand goes, you can see they have like the 2 little notches. Pretty self-explanatory. You just pop it into these little holes right here, and then it should fit in place just like so. And then, like I said, you can maneuver the pod. You can like loosely attach one engine and, kind of manipulate it so it looks like he is, turning or, doing some sort of like racing. Very happy with this. Money well spent so far, in my opinion. Here, I'll do another side-by-side of just the binding. Look at that. Like, it's totally a complete difference. You can see it's more transparent here on this is the Series 1 version, and then this is like the new updated one. Totally a lot darker, a lot more vibrant. So very happy that they're making those nice little subtle running changes, And before we move on to Gasgano's pod, I want to show you the back of like the engines right here and just the little details. That's cool. Since we don't get a whole lot of screen time with him, this is basically the first time we're really seeing this pod like in depth. Now, let's move into Gasgano's pod. So you can see he has 4 arms, and they all move up at once for that basic articulation, as well as the legs. So we'll place him on in there. He should be a lot easier to pop in compared to Dud Bolt. And maybe not. Oh, no, there he goes. Okay. Yep, fits in there very well. And I can put these 2 arms onto the little control arms, and then these ones will just kind of hang off to the side. Now, this pod is much more iconic. It is one of the few that had actually survived the race. I think even won 2nd place is what I was reading. Oh, look, that's actually like soft right there. But anyways, this pod has been made a few times, through Hasbro. I think they did like some some push launchers, and then like the little micro scale, and then like Lego and things like that. But none of those have been to this scale, quality, attention to detail, and just articulation. This is a far superior version of Gasgano's pod, most definitely. And right off the bat, you can see all that weathering throughout the engine bay, the components, and just the scuffed paint. This looks really nice. You can tell that they definitely upped their game with this compared to the first season or the first series that we got. There's barely any weathering to Anakin's pod. I mean, there's just a dust of it here and there to the cockpit, and then like no paint chipping or anything like that. Whereas there's a lot more paint details, chipping, weathering going on with this pod. Here's a better idea of what it looks like coming down, you know, through Boonta Eve. So that looks really good. Very impressed with this pod. I'm so happy that they just continue to grow and just make improvements and just, you know, just up the game to these vehicles. Loving all this right there. More of the engine bay components. Again, this is like a soft, like, rubber area there. This is the first time I've ever seen that on these pods, so that's pretty cool. That's nice. Here, we'll take that stand off so you can get a better idea what this underside looks like. Very impressed. Very well done. Loving this. Again, we see this pod a lot more than the other ones for sure, but it's still almost like I'm seeing it for the first time, you know, seeing all the details, because this has never been done before, so this is absolutely incredible. Here's a better idea of what that pod looks like, all the venting. Look at all that, like, distress, you know, that's great. So good. This too has those ball joints throughout, you know, from the cockpit all the way down to the engines to the binder, and you know, this will help you maneuver the pod around and get some little posability out of it and give it some character as you display it, you know, in your collection. You can see they also use some of that transparent clear plastic there to basically connect the pod together and just make it look, you know, more put together. Here's a good idea of what the backside looks like. Some little red paint right there. Just super impressed with this pod. I love this so much. Now, like I mentioned earlier, you can fully disassemble these pods. So they're connected to ball joints at each area. You know, you have the little connection cables there, and they pop off pretty easily, just like so. I remember the binding was like the worst part to put back on because it's like super spiky, so it kind of hurts your fingers a little bit. But you can take apart all the pods completely, disassemble them, and crash them. Again, I would have liked to have seen these turbines or these engines be compacted, destroyed. You know, if we're getting a battle damage Sebulba, you know, I like to see it be crumbled and destroyed. But let's say you just wanted to disassemble them, create a little diorama space to, you know, mimic like the pod is in the shop, you're working on it, you got little pit droids, you know, that are reconnecting the engine bay together, or, you know, what have you. You can totally do that. And so that's something that I really like about these pods, is just the extra playability feature. There's not really any ship out there, I think, in Micro Galaxy Squadron, except I think maybe like the Razor Crest, where you can disassemble it. At least to this degree, you know, being able to take off and totally dismantle the entire vehicle. You know, I think the pods are really one of the only ones that you can really break it down. Let's do some comparisons. I tried to line them up as even as possible. We threw Anakin's in there as well, but I thought Sebulba's pod racer was the longest. His comes in at about 11.4 meters, but Dud Bolt's pod is actually slightly bigger than Sebulba's, ringing it at 11.58 meters. If you look closely, I have them all lined up. You can see that his pod is still slightly longer than Sebulba's. So I was a little worried that they weren't going to be in scale, but they all seem to be in scale. And Gasgano's is obviously shorter than both of them, and then as well as Anakin's. I think Gasgano's was like 10 and some change, and then Anakin was just slightly below that as well. So that makes me really happy, even though I know this entire line has not been in scale with each other. I mean, some things match up better than others, but as far as the pod racers go, it seems like they are matching them up really well, and I hope they continue to do that with the rest of the roster. You know, I mean, that would just be the ultimate, to have them all matching up and lined up with each other like perfectly. So I went ahead and rearranged them from longest to shortest to give you a better idea of how they stack up with each other. And man, do they look great. We are 4 pods down. What, 17 more to go? Let's keep them coming. Alright, that's going to do it for this video. Our second Boonta Eve set from Micro Galaxy Squadron. I think you already know my thoughts. I absolutely love it. More pod racers, the better. Now, I do have some gripes. I would have liked to have seen a new pod rather than a reissue of Sebulba's with some, you know, weathering and chipped paint and things like that. Or at least, if we're going to get Sebulba's pod racer again, let's get it crunched up, destroyed, those engine turbines just annihilated and just like pieces flying everywhere. I'm very happy that they're keeping all the pods in scale with each other. I think that's important for these. We're getting new characters, new pods that haven't been made to this degree. And could you imagine if they did all the racers for the Boonta Eve Classic and they were all in scale with each other, all 21 something racers? That would be so epic. Many of you know that I'm not like a big stickler for scale, but when it comes to these pod racers, if you've already done the first 4, let's keep the rest of them in scale. Other than that, there isn't really anything else I would change to these. I think the running changes are amazing. The weathering, the scaling, the chipping of the paint, everything is just getting better and better with this line. But that is all I got for you with this video. I really hope you enjoyed this unboxing and review of the new Boonta Eve Classic, a Target exclusive, $34.99, hitting stores right now. I will also post all the links in the description below. If you enjoyed this unboxing and review, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel. It lets me know that I'm doing a good job. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram and TikTok to stay up to date when new things drop, like the rest of our Boonta Eve pod racers. I also post toy photography and toy videos. Until then, collectors, I'll see y'all in the next race.